And we're live.
Are we live?
We are.
Well, I'm live. Where are you?
Hasn't caught up yet. Oops. Sorry, guys. We're having some technical difficulties. So we're experiencing a little bit of a delay between the phone that we're using and the laptop where we're actually seeing ourselves. So, hi, Lori. We were very late.
We're very late.
You're actually just on time.
Yeah. We didn't do a very good job of knowing what we were doing. So we're a little bit lagged. Okay, we'll just wait for people to sort of catch up with us here because we sort of fell behind.
Yes.
We thought this was going to be a really simple thing, and well, it turns out you had to have some ability to understand how it works. So our first Facebook Live, and welcome to people. Okay, so Catherine and I wanted to welcome everybody who's joining us. I see we have a few people on, so let's talk about grief and loss. I mean, this was something that we get an awful lot of people asking us about, and every day that's what we deal with, and
yeah,
it can be pretty tough. So we wanted to just come on and have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
You have to stop looking.
I know.
Stop looking at yourself because it's a delay.
There's a delay in the camera on the laptop, so I keep staring at that and watching us because we're not talking. So, grief and loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I often find is people feel that they have to hide their grief, and I just wish people could understand that it's a very natural part of life, and we just need to be more accepting of grief, I think.
Yeah.
Because really, doesn't that reflect love?
It absolutely, it reflects the love that you are able to hold for the person or the experience or whatever it is that you're grieving. You're holding that space in your heart, and as you're grieving, you might be feeling the emotions just coming out randomly as well. I know for myself that sometimes grief hits me in a really random way, that I wouldn't expect it to hit me.
And I mean, there will always be things that will remind you of somebody that you've lost. And I mean, grief is not just for people. We don't just grieve people. We grieve the loss of pets. We grieve the loss of maybe a job that we loved, or we had our favorite car and it died and we have to let that car go. I mean, it can be anything. It can be.
And sometimes when it's something like a vehicle, the grief that you're actually experiencing is the attachment that we've had to the memories that we created in, say, that vehicle that we love so much, because Exactly. It took us to all of these wonderful places and we had these wonderful times. So that's where that grief comes in, and also why it's totally okay if that's an emotion that you have coming out with, then to just allow that to be.
I mean, I think that really, a loss is a loss, and we can't judge another person's loss. And I think it's really important to know that it's all right to be sad as well, because we sometimes feel like we need to not show other people that we're sad because we think we might make them sad, and well, that's not fair either. So
yeah,
let's be open about missing somebody or missing something.
Yeah,
and really be more mindful of things that we say to people who are experiencing loss and grief. You know, you'll find a better way, or you'll get over this, or you don't get over grief. You don't get over grief. I tell this to people all the time. You find your way through it, and you become a new person who's now living with a new circumstance. Yeah. And part of that is due to the grief you've experienced. So it's about being mindful about that you'll never be the same. But yeah. we're never the same from any experience we have. Every experience changes who we are.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to be really mindful of the fact that grief is a big part of that.
Yes.
So, I think, with the holidays coming up, this tends to be a time when people struggle with grief, because I think they're worried that they'll interfere with other people's happiness. Or maybe they feel like this is like the worst experience that they could have. But what if we could change not our experience with grief, but maybe the relationship we have with grief?
Yeah.
Right? And we look at things like making it about sharing the good memories during the holidays, as opposed to thinking about what you don't have anymore, and feeling the loss, just the loss. But what about honoring the life of somebody or the pet that you lost during the holidays, so that they are still a part of your experience, but in a different way.
Hi, Danielle. I think too that it's okay if you're not okay during the holidays. And if you don't feel like celebrating the holidays, you don't have to celebrate the holidays. If you don't want to wrap Christmas presents, or you don't want to
put up a tree,
whatever is going to help you the most. You don't need to fake being happy just because it's the holiday season. Do whatever it is that you need to do that's going to bring you comfort, that's going to allow you to express your authenticity, that's going to allow you to express whatever your grief is. Because sometimes people will push themselves to put up, say, a Christmas tree, or buy presents, or go to these holiday parties that they don't want to go to. And then they have to push down the emotions because they're not feeling it. And in that, when we're pushing down the emotions and we're not allowing ourselves to just truly let them go or let them out, it creates this almost resistance inside of our bodies, and it feels very uncomfortable. So you're better off to just keep the tree down if you're not feeling it. You
Absolutely.
Have to really ask yourself, what is it that my body is needing from me right now? And it might just be, I need to cry, and then I'll put up the Christmas tree. Or it might be, I need to put up the Christmas tree, and I need to remember all of these memories of the person that I love, and why we put up the Christmas tree together, and then I will cry. Whatever it's going to be for you is perfect.
I think that's really it. It's about honoring your feelings around it, and remembering the love for that person, and remembering all of the experiences you had with that person, good and bad. Because, we have bad experience with people who have passed, and sometimes we try to forget those because we think we should only remember the good about them. But, the experience is the experience. And whatever your relationship was is what it was. And, and sometimes sometimes we feel almost relief around the loss of somebody, and then we feel guilty, which then creates a different kind of grief struggle. Yeah. And sometimes it's okay to be relieved that somebody's no longer suffering or struggling, or it's okay. Yeah. So there's all kinds of forced emotion, I think, is what I want to say, related to grief. And I think that it's important for people to know that they just need to be true to who they are. And, sometimes what happens is people get afraid to talk about the person who's gone. And it's like, let's embrace that, and let's talk about the people who were important in our life and who had an influence and an impact on who we became, because every interaction creates this in us, right? And so let's talk about the people who aren't here.
Yeah.
let's remember them, let's honor them, let's have good memory around them. And if we don't focus on the death and the loss, but on the life that they had and the joy that they brought, let's look at that thing instead.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, Andrea.
And I mean, if anybody has any questions, please type them up, and we'll get to them as we're going. We do run into it every day in the work that we do, the idea of grief and loss, and people are often apologizing to me because of tears, and I'm like, no, let the tears come.
Yeah,
the tears are an expression of an emotion, the same way laughter is, right? You don't apologize for laughing, well, unless it's an inappropriate situation, but usually you don't apologize for laughter, but we feel the need to apologize for tears, and I don't think that's right either. You know, every experience is part of the human beings that we become, and I think that we shouldn't downplay any sadness or grief or emotion.
Yeah. And the big thing with emotion too is, if you break it down, it's energy in motion. And so if you allow that energy to just come up and then it just leaves, it's kind of like the wind blowing on your face. If you're in resistance to the wind, it's going to be that much more forceful. But if you actually just kind of go with the wind, then you're just in the flow of it. And energy and emotions are that same kind of, just go with it. And whatever's coming up, whether it's sadness or anger or grief or loss or whatever, that you're just allowing yourself to just feel it. And as you're feeling it, then the energy of that changes, and you actually give yourself this release and this expression of what you've been holding on to inside, and it has the ability to actually come outside of you.
Sometimes people will get almost debilitated by...
Hi, Chris. Sorry.
That's okay. Will get almost debilitated by the grief, because what they're doing is fighting it, right? Yeah. And there's I almost want to say there's people that almost become paralyzed, so they're not able to do anything because they're so worried about the way in which they're going to express their grief, or they're thinking that they should be over it by now. What's wrong with me if I'm not over it by now? What's wrong is that you're not embracing the grief and you're trying to resist it.
Yeah.
And when you resist it, all you do is prolong the really hard stuff. I don't think you ever get over the loss of someone really important, but you do become somebody who works in a different space, right? So where you operate from is different than it will ever be, but it doesn't mean you need to. What do I want to say? So if you've lost a spouse, it doesn't mean that you will never feel love again. It just means that you will feel love in a very different way.
Yeah.
The next time it comes around.
All right. And Lori asks, do our loved ones feel grief on the other side?
Excellent question. I want to say that because they are still connected to us in a way that we're not always able to see, we should probably, well, we can see. But sometimes we forget that they are around us.
Yeah.
And they're reunited with people who left them here grieving. And I mean, what we're grieving isn't so much their death, but the change to our situation, right? And they're now in a place where they're not feeling the illness or the hardship or the struggles of the human experience that they had.
Yeah.
So my opinion is that they don't feel grief in the way that we experience it here.
Yeah.
Because they're still able to see us and connect with us. We just have to be open to whatever signs they're giving us, because some people think they only give us signs one way. And when we talk to people about the different ways that they're getting signs, there's usually a moment of, oh, I never realized that was the sign.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you that they don't experience grief in the same way that we do. We're human. When we're down here, we're completely human, which means we feel this whole plethora of emotions, and we experience attachments to people. And when we no longer have attachment in the human physical form, we grieve this loss of that. It's almost like a sense of identity with ourselves. Like when my father passed, it was, now I'm fatherless, and I'm not fatherless. I still have my father, and he will always be my father, but it's this attachment to who I was as a daughter with my father, who he was as a father for me, and what that meant for me in the world moving forward without having that physical presence of him. So when it comes to spirit, and once you've lost this human attachment, your energy, and energy doesn't experience loss. Energy just is. It's kind of like the air that's around us right now. I can't actually separate any of it. Even though there's so many particles in the room, I can't separate any of it because it all just is.
So does that answer your question, Lori? I think that was a great way to say it.
Thank you. I'm pretty smart sometimes.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You have a way with words, for sure. I sometimes struggle, but that's okay. I eventually get there. I just think that it's important to just remember to be open to whatever signs it is they're giving us.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's that feel like somebody's sitting beside you on the couch, or that whiff in the air of the scent that reminds you of them, whether it's a perfume or a cigarette or
coffee.
Sometimes it's beer. Sometimes we feel it all. Now, and sometimes we get emotion from spirit, in the sense that I will get people who come through with regret.
Yes.
But I don't really see it come through as grief. And
sometimes for myself, when I'm reading with people, it's not grief that they're showing me, but more of a sense of sadness for what they're knowing their loved ones are going through, and seeing the sadness that their loved ones are going through. And in that, it's almost like they're trying to prove so hard that they're still around, and that in the grief don't need to attach to it, or I don't want to say attach. That the people who are experiencing the grief, it doesn't need to feel as heavy for them. Hi, Tammy.
I was going to do that, but you've been doing the highs.
I have been. There's a sign for you, Danielle.
There you go.
She's at the hospital with her grandmother, and the door just opened on its own. And that's how spirit works. They will let you know constantly, in the most random ways, that they're around. And it might be a door opening on its own. It might be a song that comes on the radio. It might be a song that just pops randomly into your head, and you have no idea why that song is there. You haven't heard it for ages or whatever, and it could just be your loved ones that are actually sending you a message. Some people get signs from birds, or from feathers, or from dimes.
Yes.
Butterflies, dragonflies. There's so many.
Right? Lights will turn on and off. TVs will flicker. Things, you'll get in the car and you'll have a different radio station playing that you've never, ever had on before. There's all kinds of...
Even sometimes people's license plates will actually speak to me. I'll be thinking something, and then someone will pull in front of me. The one time I was thinking about making a change and really stepping into something new, and I was like, I don't know if I should, and I literally said that out loud in my vehicle while I was driving. I don't know if I should. And then the vehicle that pulled in front of me, their license plate said, why not? And I was like, okay, good point.
Yeah, so I had that happen too. I was questioning something and I'm like, all right, you just need to give me a sign. And then this car cut me off and its license plate was sign number 1. I'm like, all right, seriously.
Yeah.
So they're pretty funny sometimes. And hi Kim. Sorry, I tried to jump in there first this time. But, so there, how is your grandmother doing, Danielle? I just, and has your grandfather passed? I just suddenly feel like it's Grandpa. It's a man that opened the door. Did you get that? Or is that just me?
It's all yours, baby.
Oh, yeah, I know we weren't going to do readings today. That's what we said.
Yeah.
But, and here's the thing that's, some of the times we sit in grief because we're worried about them on the other side. And I want to say, like, I haven't run into any spirit that hasn't been just fine. They're always okay because they leave all this stuff behind. And then the other thing is they never die alone. You never die alone because somebody always comes for you. So I think that it's important to know that too, because I think that brings comfort to people, knowing that even if they thought the person was physically alone, they actually will never die alone because in will come a family member to greet you, right? To help you cross over. So that's what comes up a lot for me when people are asking. And they're always fine. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I love what we do, by the way. Does anyone else have any other questions about grief and loss? Like, I mean, and I want to say, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, you need to reach out to somebody that will just, support you and not make you feel like you should be feeling anything differently, but just somebody who will support you in the moment and know that you'll be okay, and that it's okay to feel sad, and it's okay to not want to go to, like you said, to the parties. It's okay to not want to go to the parties. It doesn't mean you give up living for the rest of your life, but for right now, it may just not be something that you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as you're dealing with really just the holidays in general, whether you have grief and loss that you need to deal with, or well, not deal with, that you're going through, or whether it's just the holiday season is harder for you, to just simply sit back and listen to, what does your body want right now? For some people, it might be to just lay low during the entire holiday season. For other people, it's they want to get out, they want to connect with people, they want to talk to people, they want to do all of the events and whatever. And it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you're listening to what it is that your body needs.
Well, Tammy, like, Alicia's with you all the time. You know that. And I mean, she loved Christmas and loved being around family. So of course you're going to feel her more. You don't have to put the pain aside. I think that putting the pain aside just pushes it deeper as opposed to allowing it to be. And it's okay to feel the loss of her. And it's okay to find it painful but I mean, you honor her in so many ways that she knows how loved she was. And so that's why she's around you so much. And she's always showing you that she's there. She made the moon a fucking heart. Oops, sorry for the language. But, like, she's amazing. And so, but be exactly who you need to be and feel exactly what you need to feel. And don't feel that you have to put it aside.
Hi, Leanne.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you need to, you know how to reach me, Tammy. Seriously. She is a stalker. That's true.
In the best way. Yes.
she's one powerful spirit, that Rosie
is.
man. She just is relentless in letting you know that she's not going anywhere. Yes. But please don't push this pain away or aside, because it will then just stay forever. So, any other questions that you have? Like, anybody have anything that they're struggling with that they want us to speak to? Or, I think that it's important to honor the memory of people that have been in our lives and been an important part. But, let's just talk about, even pets. Let's talk about pets and what do we do to honor our pets that we're missing, besides tripping over their ghost spirits, because they will be around you. It's okay that we feel sadness at the loss of a pet. They're an important part of our family.
One of my most favorite readings that I've ever done with a client, it was done online, and she asked me to connect with Riley. And that's all she said was, can you connect with Riley? And so when I connected, I seen this 13-year-old boy with blonde, shaggy hair sitting at a kitchen table, and he was scarfing down this huge bowl of cereal. And I was like, okay, he's like a 13-year-old boy. I got the blonde, shaggy hair, and he's eating all of this cereal, but really just lapping it up. And then I was able to get some information about, there was pictures of him in this cupboard. They had fallen underneath the kitchen counter, whatever. Well, it turned out it was her 13-year-old golden retriever named Riley.
Oh.
And I totally seen him as a boy.
Cool.
And not a dog whatsoever. But for her and her husband, it was their child. And they referred to Riley as their son. And so it made total sense that Riley came in as this human rather than an animal. But when people talk about grieving the loss of pets and stuff, I always go back to this Riley boy and what he looked like sitting there at the kitchen table. And they really, when you connect with your animal at such a level where it's your child, to me the spirit really is that child-parent connection.
Yes.
It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful,
right? And let's touch on loss as well. If you've lost a job, or you lost your house, or you lost, what else could you be losing at this time of year?
It might even be stuff that you're wanting to get rid of, but there's still this grieving process. I just burnt a ton of visualization boards and journals and release statements and stuff on the full moon that had just happened. And as I was burning it, I was feeling this kind of grief of what was just coming up and just releasing because of the past decade of opportunity and experience and growth and all of that. And I'm no longer the person I was, say, 10 years ago or yesterday. So as we're changing, as we're growing, we're constantly grieving these lost aspects of ourselves and these lost aspects of what yesterday was or what last year was, because it's constantly changing.
And sometimes we have an idea of where we think we're going, and then circumstance takes us in a different direction. And we might feel loss around that.
Yes.
As well.
Yes.
Or you maybe were in a relationship and maybe the person didn't die, but maybe there's just been a separation.
Yeah.
And your expectation of that relationship was one way, and theirs created it to be something completely different. And now you've lost that relationship, and now it's creating a new version of you without that person. So there's a whole lot of different components to loss. It's not just about death, but I think that it's important that we acknowledge any kind of loss, as simple as it could be.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything that causes you to feel emotion, I think, is potentially something that you can grieve.
Yes.
So, and what if you went to school to become a doctor, and then at the end you didn't pass, and the only thing you ever wanted to be was a doctor, but you're not able to become one? don't know why I'm talking about this, but this is what they just showed me. It's, sometimes things don't work out, and we just have to be able to be accepting of the fact that we need to go through a process of grieving, even something as simple as what we thought we were going to do for a living.
Yeah. And any expectation that we have on what we want our reality to be, as soon as we don't meet that expectation, there can be this level of disappointment, this level of loss, this level of grief that comes forward with it. And
go to your favorite restaurant and they've taken your favorite thing off the menu. And now you have a moment of loss. But that's a very simple...
Yes.
That's a very simplified version of loss, but it can happen. We don't stay in that kind of loss very long, but it still is a loss.
Yeah. And what we start to learn with grief and with loss and with moving on from different experiences or different people is that we're always okay. And so much of us in our mindsets can depend on who am I with this. And with any type of grief, we're starting to learn who we are without it. And we feel as though a piece of ourselves has been removed from us. And again, it's just that attachment to the experience or the attachment to the person. But we start to realize we are whole again. We're always whole.
But that relationship did form a part of who you are.
Yes.
And we need to remember that. It just means that from this point forward, everything will be different. And it doesn't mean that you have to start living differently immediately. It just means that you will find your way through it, but you got to allow yourself the opportunity to feel it.
Yes.
We're very good about celebrating the happy events in our lives, and we're not so great about acknowledging the sadder things, and the sadness is part of being human.
And maybe we should just celebrate when we're sad.
Right?
That, oh, look at me, I've got this pain that's leaving my body. Let's celebrate it instead of apologizing for it or trying to cover it up, or
celebrate that you were lucky enough to experience that love in your life.
Yes.
Right? Because if you think about it, there's people dying every day that you don't know, and you don't feel the sadness around their death. So it's not even so much that death causes us to be sad, but it's the loss of the love.
Yeah.
So be celebrating the fact that you've had that love in your life, and you've had the love connection with somebody so deep that it makes you want to cry when you don't have it.
Yeah.
How absolutely beautiful is that? And let's be grateful for having had those relationships. And because there are people who have passed that I feel sympathy for a family, or I feel empathy for somebody who's lost a father. Because I've lost a father, I can empathize with you, because I know what that feels like. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be grieving your loss.
Yeah.
So it's really, we need to honor those relationships and the importance that they had in our life, and what we got, and how that became part of who we are. And because if we don't acknowledge it, then what we're doing is we're cutting out part of ourselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So any closing thoughts? Should we looking at wrapping this up? Does anybody have any other questions?
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda. Anybody have anything to say? Anybody have anything they want to ask? Just tell us, that you've had enough of us, or
This is our first time doing a Facebook Live.
Yes, we had a bit of technical difficulty at the beginning. We should have maybe checked that out before we actually did the, well, at least 5 minutes earlier would have been good, because we were 5 minutes late because of it. But I think that it would be great to do these a little more often.
Yeah.
And maybe just pick a topic and come on for 20 minutes, half an hour. And thank you, Lori. Thank you, Tammy.
You're lovely as well, Tammy.
You're all lovely. we have the best people in our lives. Honest to God, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's going to be more opportunities to do these. I think we kind of like the idea of being able to share with you. We
like to talk.
We do like to talk. It's true. It's absolutely true. So yeah, we're gonna talk after this, and we'll come up with some ideas to do these on a little more frequent basis, and we'll put out maybe a schedule, and we'll try to be a little more prompt at the beginning. Yeah. So I want to thank everybody who popped on.
Yes,
it was great.
Thank you, everybody. And as you go into the holidays, just remember to listen to what it is that you're needing, to celebrate whatever it is that you're feeling, and really just be in the moment. So often we get so caught up in the hustle bustle of what the holiday season is all about. Just be in the moment.
Yeah, Danielle, loss of babies is hard because we can't wrap our minds around why are they going so early, so soon. They didn't really have a chance, but every soul comes with a contract, and we don't always understand the reasoning behind it. And
Danielle, there's a book by Dr. Michael Newton, and it's called Journey of Souls, and he also has one called Destiny of Souls. And in there, they do talk a little bit about the loss of babies, the loss of children. And what Michael does is he actually takes a person, instead of going into a past life, it goes into the afterlife. So between one lifetime and the next lifetime, and how we select what the next lifetime's going to be, what we learned in the previous lifetime, that sort of thing. And one of the things that was brought forward, and I don't remember if it was in Journey of Souls or Destiny of Souls, was that for someone who just needs to experience love, and love in its purest form without needing to do anything for it or anything like that, was that a child might come into a mother's stomach, and she might have a miscarriage, or she might have a stillborn, or even the child dying shortly after the birth. But that child gets to experience such a love without having to give anything of itself. They get to experience love. And so that's what their soul's lesson was. And to me, because I've had a couple of miscarriages, but to me, just reading that, I was like, wow, okay, so I got to be the one to just give this unconditional love to this little soul, because that's all they needed this time around. So check out those books.
Yes. Amanda, your papa absolutely got to hear you say goodbye. And he's around you all the time, and you can just talk to him, and he will hear you. And sometimes we feel like we didn't get a chance to say goodbye, but we really do. And you just need to, either sit and have a conversation with him, or write him a letter and express what you need to say to him, and he will hear you. And you need to know that he's not gone anywhere that's too far away from where you are.
Sometimes I think we get caught up in this idea that we need to be able to say goodbye to the person prior to them passing, but a lot of people don't actually have that chance. And closure, doing anything. So for some people it's releasing of butterflies, or for some people it's the funeral itself. For some people it's perhaps writing a letter, as Janice was saying, just something to honor the relationship that you had with your papa, would be a way to kind of bring that closure full circle. Understand that on the spirit's end, they come to visit everyone that they're wanting to say goodbye to from the spirit side. My apologies. So it's really just us that are stuck in the human form that are thinking, I need to be able to say goodbye. I'm sorry, I've got a tickle in my throat right away.
Okay. So, Amanda, hopefully that helps you have some peace around the passing of your grandpa, your papa. He is with you. Don't ever question that. And we don't. You're right. We don't have to be in the room. And often what'll happen is, people say, "Oh, I was there and I left," and then they passed. Well, because they don't want to give you that. So sometimes the last gift they give you is for you not to be there when they actually leave their physical body, because sometimes people will be stuck on that memory as opposed to just remembering the good memories about people, and honoring the happy times in the relationship and the love. So, okay, I think that, in closing, like, be kind to yourself, do what you need to do to take care of you. If you're feeling, a little overwhelmed by grief or loss, it's okay to step back from all of the festivities if you need to. And also know that, Amanda, he's around your son all the time. You don't need to even worry about that. When your son's talking about him, you'll know. And there's, take good care. Take the time to go have a soak in the tub, or go read a book, or go for a walk in nature, or just, have some quiet time to reflect and just really do what you need to not feel forced into happiness. That's what I want to say. Because we really don't need to.
Yeah. John, last week, my husband, was actually saying that he might write a book called The Illusion of Happiness.
Oh, perfect.
That it's always this destination that we're trying to reach, or this thing that we're trying to get back to. And it's all just an illusion. It
really is.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I know.
All right, John. We're waiting for the book now. All right. So, everybody, thank you for coming to our first Facebook Live.
Yes, thank you.
It's been fun. And Sylvia, you're welcome, but we're just signing off.
I hope you're feeling better, Sylvia.
Yes, I hope so, too. That was awful birthday present. But, yeah, so everybody have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine today.
Yes.
After the blistery mess we had yesterday. And go and do something good for yourself.
Yes.
Okay?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
And happy holidays, whatever you're celebrating.
Exactly. You're going to turn it on?
Oh, yes.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Sorry, I was waiting for it to go off on its own.